So I can see these gold bond wires with the naked eye, and I gotta say, man, I really wish that every chip I touched looked like these. Check this out. Remember I said that was just one side of it right there? Hey folks, and welcome back to KKR Renewables Metal Recovery channel. Today, we're going to scrap out a Cisco Catalyst 2960 series switch. Now this switch has 48 ports on it. I assume these are probably 10100 ports. This is a pretty old switch. I don't really know if they are or not, but this switch is end of life and it is not able to be used anymore. So also it looks like somebody messed up these this uplink ports here. These two top ports for SFP modules. These ports down here are for copper, and looks like this one's smashed in a little bit. Not sure, but it needs to be destroyed, so we're going to go ahead and take it apart today. We'll start with our screwdriver and our drill, and we'll take off these rack mounting brackets here, and then we'll get into the inside. All right, let's get to it. These mounting brackets are still pretty good. I don't know if anyone would ever use these again. They're pretty standard, I guess. They've got 4 mounting holes for the screws. I have so many of these, and I've seen so many of these, that I just wind up taking these straight to the recycling center as steel. They are magnetic. They are really very magnetic, actually. All right. Turn this over, we see that we've got flathead screws to get into. You know, I really wish these guys would stay consistent on the types of screws they use. Let's see if this 1/4 inch will fit. Nope. That's disappointing. I need to get some non-stick or non-skid material for the top of my rack here so I can take things apart without them sliding all over the place. All right, let's see how we get in this thing. Well, probably these things are pretty difficult to get into sometimes because they're not very intuitive as to which direction things slide in or out of the Cisco switches. So looking at it here, it looks like there's, you know, it looks like the outer case is separated from the front plate here. Same on this side over here. So I'm going to assume that this whole piece here slides this direction out of the case. Beautiful. That's exactly how it comes out. All right, let's see what we got. All right, just right out of the gate, I see we've got a nice gold corner BGA. This is a Cisco gold corner BGA. We have a good number of MLCCs. I don't know what's under these two heat sinks. I'm really hoping that there's some additional gold corner BGAs underneath there. We've got some gold rimmed crystal oscillator on here. Some two-sided flat packs, some four-sided flat packs. These are the thick ones though, and if you're going to try to figure out how much you're going to recover by weight, those thicker ones have the same number of gold bond wires in them as the thin four-sided ones, but when you weigh them up, you're going to get maybe 30% gold out of these by weight that you would get from the thin ones. Let's go ahead and pull one of these off of here. Let me show you what I'm talking about. I can just take a pair of pliers and twist those off. These sides are really thick, as you can see. I've done a different video that I will link to in this video, and I'll try to put it right here. And what I did was I went through and did some math about how thick these were, and what I thought I was going to get out of them. So if you're interested, go check that video out, and you'll see some nice gold recovery from that. These are just plastic light transfers, I guess. There are LEDs they're really, really small LEDs that are on this green motherboard, and these plastic runners here take the LED light from here to the front and show up-down link activity for the Cisco switch. I really like these rotary style fans. They are really powerful. They move a lot of air. So I'm going to keep these. I think they're pretty neat. And then we have our power supply here. We've got in the power supplies, you've noticed if you've watched this channel for a while, I have an affinity for power supplies also. I think they are highly overlooked for those of us who are doing micro scrapping and those of us who are doing at-home scrapping specifically. So those of us who don't get a whole lot of material to move through, I would not just pull these power supplies out and get rid of them. There's copper windings on here. There's aluminum on here. There's, capacitors that may or may not contain silver in those. If you're going to scrap out the whole unit anyway, and you don't have hundreds of them to go through on a daily basis, these are well worth your time. All right, I'm really interested in knowing what's underneath these heat sinks right here. Let's hope they are gold corner BGAs. I really have no idea. So I'm going to go ahead and take some wire cutters, and I'll cut these off, and we'll get underneath those right now. These little springs right here, I destroy these springs when I take them apart this way, but they're just steel springs. They're not even stainless steel or anything like that, so they'll go straight to the steel shred. In order to get these off, I guess we're going to need to go through here and pry these up. Hopefully they come off pretty easily, and they did not. You see that? Sometimes when these units are so old, the paste that they use to put on top of these, on top of the BGA chips and other IC chips, the thermal paste that they use eventually dries out, and it becomes like brick hard, and sticks to the aluminum heat sinks. So they become really difficult to get off. Yeah, this one's really hard to get off. Let's see what we can do about that. Get our trusty razor knife. we'll just pop that off and get under there like that. So I don't know what this is, because unfortunately the whole top here has got this gooey stuff on it. But nonetheless, I can see right here, and you probably can't see that, but I can see the little, I think it's the Bay Bridge or the Golden Gate Bridge. I don't know really. There's a little icon on top of the Cisco word here that looks like a, dash lines of a bridge. It's on this piece too, so this must be a Cisco. But nonetheless, it's a BGA, and it's got a lot of gold bond wires in it. And the way you know that it's got bond wires in it, at least, is you can count up the number of little balls that are on the bottom of the BGA. This is a ball grid array. You can count up those little balls, and every connection will either be made with gold, silver, or aluminum bond wires. So I don't know what this is yet. We'll take this outside and we will hit it with a torch. We'll burn all this carbon off. We'll break up this chip, and we will check out and see if there's gold in here or silver or aluminum. All right, so the way that you know whether it's got a significant amount in it or not, just count the ball grid array connection points. This one looks like it's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 this direction. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 this direction also. So 7 this way, 7 this way. So there's 7 coming out from the center, and then you count down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I can't see that right now, but you count down the number of ball grid connections this direction, and then you can just do some quick math, and you can multiply, this rectangle number 7 times whatever this is. I'm going to say maybe 20. There's probably 140 wires on this side times 2 for this side over here, and then maybe half of that, for each one of these. So there's probably, I'd say probably 70 between here and here easily. So 240 plus 70, 310. There's a lot of little gold bond wires or little bond wires in here. And in this video, a little bit later on, we're going to go ahead and put these under the microscope, and we're going to see if we can identify the gold bond wires. I keep saying gold bond wires. I'm really hopeful. Let's see about this one. We'll go ahead and get this one off now. You got to be really careful. Those little white neoprene connectors here, they just fire off like a rocket when the spring releases them off of here. I've got them all over the place. This one sounds like it just ripped off also. Yep, sure enough. So here's the second one. We'll go ahead and just cut that up. Comes off really easily. And then this right here, we'll remove that stuff, and then we'll just throw this in with our clean aluminum. Okay, what else do we have? We have another BGA right here. How do we get those off? Well, the easiest way I have found to get these off is with a hammer and a chisel. I have some woodworking chisels that I use. They are fairly sharp and fairly wide. What I like to do is I like to use the wide chisel, because it pretty much lines up with the entire width of the gold corner BGA. So all I'll do is I'll just take my hammer. I'll give that a good whack, and as you can see, it just pops right up. Now this, you can look at this gold corner BGA and compare it to this one, and you can see that there are far fewer gold bond wires in the gold corner BGA than whatever these things are that were underneath the heat sinks. All right, so let's see what else we have here. These are two-sided flat packs. The way that I get these off, there's a couple different ways I can do it. I can either use the chisel and just knock them off, or I can literally just run my chisel down the one side of it. You see how that just pries right up? If you just run your chisel down the one side, or your screwdriver, or your utility knife, and you cut those leads, there's nothing holding these to the board on the bottom. And then you can just grab the other side and just twist it right off. And you can see how much thinner these are than these thick flat packs. Pretty easy. All right, so then also you have these smaller BGA. I usually see these in like memory chips. These look like DDR3, 4 memory chip BGAs. I don't really know. Also, if you see here, if you can see where my chisel is moving these little solder pieces around, I'm going to very carefully collect those also, because I have started saving these, as I read somewhere that the solder that affixes the BGAs to these motherboards has a higher concentration of silver in it than most solder. So I don't know if that's true or not. I've heard a couple people agree with that. And a couple people have disagreed with it, so I really don't know one way or the other. I haven't done a test yet myself. But I'm going to save those, and then I will run that test myself. We'll go ahead and take these off, because I'm going to wind up taking the entire motherboard out. These plastic light rails make it impossible to get this thing out, even with all the screws out, just because they're wedged in there really tightly. But if you'll just take your pair of pliers and break it up and pull it out, a little bit of manhandling, they will come right out. It's a shame. This is kind of cool. I mean, it's purpose built. So, but what I do with these is I wind up putting them in the recycling bin and let the recycling company figure that out. I figure they're plastic, so they must be recyclable. Okay, that does not want to come out. Let's see if it's attached in the front at all. We're going to go ahead and take this front faceplate off. It just has these little clips that attach. You can use a small Phillips head screwdriver, a small flathead screwdriver. I mean, I'm just using the tip of my needle nose pliers. You can literally use anything you want to use to pop those open. All right, that just goes in the recycling also. It's nothing but plastic. Okay, I don't see anything in the front that's holding this piece on. So it must be attached completely with pins or a surface mounted retention device. I'm not sure. And sure enough, here it is. But you can see these look like they were destroyed before I even got this thing. And they're corroded. But check that out. I don't know if you can see that or not. I hope you can. there's really nice gold pins on these old Cisco switches, and this is no exception. I'll take those maybe with a heat gun. I'll hit it from this side, and I'll just pull everything. I'll just pull that whole connector piece off, and then pull the pins out one at a time. I do a lot of pin pulling. I do have another video where I've processed a whole lot of pins that I've pulled. I'll put a link here. Please go check that out if you're interested in how to process pins with acids. I got a request from one of my viewers that they would like for me to please try using the electrolysis method. I've never done that before, but it interests me greatly because it's far less acids, far less waste. So anyway, check out that video. The other side of this connection is on the motherboard, and it's got some really nice gold pins on it also. I don't know if you can see that or not, but there's some really nice gold pins there. You see all the little solder balls I just got through speaking about all fell out, so I'll just sweep those up and I'll collect those. All right, here we have a gold crystal oscillator. There's a couple different ways you can get those off. I've found the easiest way is to just use the old hammer and chisel method. But you have to be really sure that you get underneath, all the way underneath the surface mount device, because if you don't, you'll skim the top of that crystal oscillator, and you'll get the top cover, which does have some gold on it, but you'll leave the bottom on the board, and the bottom has the thicker gold traces and the thicker gold bond wires. So what I do is I just take my finger, I cover it up so it doesn't go flying. I get a pretty decent angle on my chisel and just give it a good whack. And it feels like under my finger that it's loose, and sure enough it is. So here it is. You might be able to see that there's gold around that the cap of the cap of the rim, but underneath this mounted device right here, underneath this cap, there are gold bond wires and there are gold bond traces. So I'll put this in with all my other crystal oscillators. Pound for pound, they're supposed to be good as the Pentium Pros. So as soon as I get enough of them, I will go ahead and process those also. Looks like there's a small crystal oscillator here. Those I have found usually do have gold on the inside of them also, but they've only got gold traces. There's no gold bond wires, I don't think. I'm going to grab that one anyway, though. Same method. I don't want it to go flying, so I will cover it up. Just give it the old love tap with the hammer. And up it comes. And you can tell these, if you do hit it, you can tell these from the bottom because they have 4 solder connections on the bottom of them. And once you start doing a few of these, they become really familiar to you. All right, so you're noticing, if you've noticed that I've started taking things off the board before I take the board out of the case. That's because I'm using this aluminum top. I guess this is a kitchen utility table. I'm using this aluminum top table, and using the weight of the case helps keep the whole unit down as I'm banging on it. So it's just easier for me to use that than it is to pull the green motherboard out of here and try to have the green motherboard just sitting on top of the table by itself. Okay, what else is in here? Right here, these are some sort of inductor. They look like old transistors, like the old silver cap or the old gold cap transistors from back in the 80s. But all they are is a copper winding wrapped around an iron core. I'll pop that off here for you in just a second and show you that. In order to get that off, I still use the chisel, but I just use a little bit of muscle. So I'll get the chisel on here and I'll just start to pry it up. And it comes off. And these connection points, they're also gold plated. But you can see underneath here, there's the copper winding. You can take these, just literally just smash it with a hammer. This stuff out here, the black cover right here, this is a ferrous material. I don't know what it is, but it's magnetic. So it's ferrous, and I just throw that in with my steel. But underneath there, you can see, maybe you can see that the connector where it connects to the green motherboard is gold plated. I've actually seen a couple of videos from our friends over in India that do hundreds, maybe thousands of these or so, and they recover the gold plating from the connectors. Those are, wow, it's a lot of work for a little bit of gold. But if you got the time and the desire, go for it. All right, these are MLCCs. I like to collect these MLCCs just in the hopes that they do have some silver in them. What I'm told is that the devices that are built prior to 1990 are pretty much laden with palladium and silver in these. These ones that are built after 1990, like this one, have some silver in them, but probably not much palladium and not really that much silver either. And the way that you test these is if they're magnetic or not. If they are magnetic, they are the newer ones, and they don't really contain much precious metals. As you know, precious metals are non-magnetic. They're non-ferrous. So if this sticks to a magnet, then it's got ferrous or magnetic materials in it. If it doesn't stick to the magnet, it does not. I've got a couple other videos in the past that I've scrapped out some other devices where I do a hard drive magnet test on them, and some of the MLCCs stick to the hard drive magnet, but you can hit them and they come right off. So I've got some questions out to the community to see if those are really of any value or not. I've never processed any of these MLCCs, but I would like to one day. And the way that I get these off is I just take my chisel again and just apply some pressure, and they'll just pop right off of the motherboard. I don't care if I break them when I take them off the motherboard, because this is just a ceramic exterior. Well, that doesn't really help, does it? How about that? It's like a diamond at the showroom. These are just ceramic. The metal that's inside them, if you just take an air hammer or something and just, if you just clear off the whole board, you can pretty much just sweep up all the dust and everything. There'll be metals in there, and you can process these. Let's test this with a magnet and see if it's magnetic. And it is. Doesn't fall off. It's really magnetic. So since it's really magnetic, I'm gonna go with, there might be a little silver in there, but no palladium. The metals that are in between the ceramic plates are ferrous, so it's not really worth trying to go through and scrape off all the MLCCs from this board. Again, you can if you want to. You can grab anything you want and anything you have time for. All right, the last thing I'll say is all of these large rectangular devices up here, these are Dallas switches. They have copper windings in them. If you want to take those, smash them up, grind them up, and pull the copper out, you certainly can. But this is the kind of stuff that you probably just want to go ahead and let go to the e-waste recycler. He'll be donating these boards to them anyway, and they'll make some money when they process the boards and get all the copper out of here. You can see here all these little dots. These are all the LEDs that I was telling you about earlier. Each one of those actually has 1 or 2 gold bond wires in them. You can scrape all those off if you want to try to reclaim the gold bond wires. You process those just like you do these chips. You scrape them all off, you put them into a dish, you heat them up with a torch until all the carbon burns off. You gravity separate or wash all the dust away. And what you're left with at the bottom of the container that you're using are microscopic gold bond wires. You get enough of those, they do add up. These devices right here are also, these are pretty interesting. They're inductors also, just like this one is. But there's actually a lot more copper in these. They have really nice windings, if you can see that inside there. And the entire device is ferrous material as well. So you can just take your pliers if you want and just get them at an angle so it crushes, and just crush that up. And you can see here that there's the wiring just, it's really thick wiring, and it can just come right out. So I'll get that out in a minute. Just want to see if there's anything else interesting on this board I want to show you before I begin. I'll take all these ICs off. I'll take these BGAs off. I'll take this connector off. I will take the power supply out of here. I'll keep that. These IC switch ICs over here, these integrated circuits chips over here. They have gold bond wires in them too, but as you can see, they have really large leads connecting to the motherboard. So there's only 1 gold bond wire for each one of those leads. So pound for pound, you're not getting a lot from these, but it all adds up. If you have the time, grab those as well. All right, I'm going to pause the video here. I'll go ahead and clean this board off. I will take this out of the frame here, and I'll just show you the pieces I've collected once I'm done. Here we have a collection of the things that I've recovered from the Cisco switch. Here's a Broadcom thick surface mount device that is an IC chip. Here are 2 BGAs. They're exactly the same. They are Cisco branded. I can see the little Cisco emblem there, as I was saying earlier. Some of these have like no gold in them, from what I understand from further research. So I'm going to go ahead and put these in a crucible or something, and we're going to get them fired, and we're going to burn them, and we'll break them down, and we'll crush them, and we'll look at them under the microscope. Here's 2 more IC chips. I think I'll do the same thing. I think I'll do microscope investigation on these small memory BGAs, the surface mount devices that are these IC chips. These are dual-sided flat packs. Here's quad-sided thick flat packs. I'm also going to put these under the microscope. I don't know if you can see this or not. I hope so. This little pile of white stuff right here, these are all the LEDs that I pulled off of the motherboard. If you recall, I said that there's maybe 1 or 2 gold bond wires usually in these small LEDs. And if you're after recovering everything, you know, it doesn't hurt to go after those also. Whether you get the return for the effort that it's going to take to get these or not, I don't know, but I'm just going to throw these in with all of my IC chips, and what I can recover from these, I will, if there's gold in there. And we'll check that out under the microscope also. Here is one of the inductors, one of these square inductors. I broke this open. It was the larger one that I broke open. This is not from one of these inductors. These have enamel-coated copper wire winding around a ferrous core. These have the same thing, except if you notice, the copper is flat. And there's just a lot here. I'm not sure the electrical significance of that, but these are just, I just wanted to show that to you because these are made differently. I just took it and spread it out inside the device. It's all layered on top of itself like this, you know, super tight and flat. But I just wanted to expand it and show you what that looks like. Here's the aluminum heatsink I got out of the switch. I got 2 of these, and then we got the gold rimmed oscillators, the small one and the larger ones. I'm going to take those and I'm just going to add those to my collection. I've got there was 86 grams of crystal oscillators in here last time I measured. There's a lot more in there now. I'm not gonna crack those open. There's I'll do a video on those one day, but for now I'm not gonna crack those open. Gold pins. You can see. I think you can see that. These are all single-sided gold-plated pins. I'll put those. I'm starting a brand new jar. I'll put those in my gold pin jar. You may notice this from one of my previous videos. Kudos to anybody who can go out and find this bottle where I'm dumping the pins into one of the other containers, because it was so difficult to get them out of this container because the neck of this significantly gets smaller as you get to the top. I don't know. It was a little bit of a pain in the butt to get those out, but it didn't really matter all that much. So I'm just going to go ahead and use that again. What I've started doing is I've started saving my large Jif peanut butter jars, because they actually are really, really nice to store pins in, like this one. I guess this is Skippy. But if you take a look at this is all the pins that I've stored from the Cisco 9000 series routers that I'll do a video on these one day. One of my viewers requested that I do a electrolysis stripping cell and use electrolysis to get these out instead of soaking them in hydrochloric acid for 2 months. I think I like to try that because that seems a whole lot simpler and a whole lot easier and a whole lot less mess. But I've never done it before, so that's going to be brand new for me. But these, I'm gonna do the video with these from just the pins from the Cisco routers. I'm not going to mix it up with any of the other pins. But yeah, these peanut butter jars are fantastic. I'll go ahead and add all the rest of the IC chips to this container. I've got a couple of these containers of just all the IC chips that I've collected. These are all dual and quad-sided flat packs. Some of them are super thin, some of them are thick. I've already done separate videos with the thin and the thick flat packs, so you can go check those out if you'd like. There's a couple kilograms of chips in here, and I've got a couple of these stock full, and I'm starting a third one, so that'll be fun to do. Okay, that's it. I'm going to go ahead and burn these. I'm not going to show you how I burn them. I mean, you just take a propane torch to these. Well, maybe I will show you that. Okay, yeah, let's show you that. But we'll go out to the backyard and we'll burn these next. We'll see you outside. Here we are outside. I've got just a stainless steel pan. I don't know if it's stainless steel or not, actually. I've used it to cook chips. When I say cook chips, I mean I'm incinerate large batches of chips, just like I'm about to do with this small batch right here. But it's all rusty. But it doesn't matter for this particular piece of it, because all I'm going to do is I'm going to burn these to a white ash, and then I'm going to take them inside. I'm going to crush them, and then we'll look at them underneath the microscope. You can see here I've got my next peanut butter jar that I've just washed and am letting dry out in the sun. I want to make sure that it's good and super clean before I start putting anything in it. I've left over here, I left one of the boards that I took all the MLCCs off from my last video. So I will put that in the pile for the large e-waste refiners, and send that off. Okay, let's go ahead and start cooking these. Okay, here we are. We're ready to start breaking open those IC chips and seeing if they have gold bond wires inside them or not. Here are my very precise instruments of destruction and investigation. Good old hammer. Super cheap off of Amazon plastic tweezers. They are incredibly precise for being what they are and how much they cost. And a pin. I use the pin so that it's got a very sharp point on it, so I can just dig around inside the ashes a little bit more with more control. And then here are our IC chips. You see they are not burnt to a complete white ash. I just didn't need to get into that for this. It's good enough to burn them as they are. Let's go ahead and take the hammer and we'll crush up these as much as we can. And then here we have our microscope. What I'll do is I'll take the black construction paper and I'll put it over here on top of this, turn the light on, and we will dig through the ashes of these things. My construction paper, I'm going to take it and I'm going to cut it into fours. And what that's going to do is that's going to give me a lot more movability and flexibility to move the ashes around. And lo and behold, I have 1, 2, 3, 4 that I'm going to investigate. This right here looks like 2, but if you can see the little shimmer from the top black one, what has happened here is the black carbon top has burned and completely separate, or the bottom rather, has burned and completely separated from the top. So I'm not sure which one of these is going to hold the gold bond wires. That'll be interesting to see. And I wonder if I can get this to separate as well. And I can. Here we go. So this is your traditional looking BGA. When you take your BGAs apart and you take the green circuit board off of the plastic top, what you get is there are gold traces on the underside here. These gold traces connect to the gold bond wires, which will be right here. I'm not sure if what we're looking at, this white section right here, I'm not sure if that's the burned IC chip or if this is the IC chip, but I believe it's here. So when we crush this, what's going to happen is that IC chip will separate from the burned carbon, and what we'll have on the inside, I hope, is a bunch of gold bond wires. And then this one, man, this thing just became light as a feather. I think maybe you saw it moving around on in the pan as I was burning it. So anyway, let's start with the hottest ticket item. I want to get inside this and see what it is. So let's go ahead and crush that up. I'm going to take a minute. I'm going to separate my construction paper into fours, and then we'll be back. Let's see if I can get this in one take with one hand. Okay. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to take the ball of the hammer. You can use anything for this. You could actually use a large steel ball if you want, and just roll it back and forth. I've done that before too. But I'm just going to roll across the surface here. I'm going to crush this up. And again, remember, the only objective here is that what we're going to do is we're going to try to separate those gold bond wires from the burned carbon. Looks like the IC chip die was actually on this side also. And I'm breaking it with the hammer, so that's okay. What I'll do with all of this when I'm done is I'll put it into a pile with things that are going to go into my next IC chip processing video. All right, so let's now take our little square. We will put it under the microscope, turn that on. And unfortunately, the next things that you're going to see from me are just still pictures because I don't have the equipment to hook up to one of the eyepieces here to be able to video as I'm digging around. Maybe if the channel gets successful enough, I'll be able to maybe I'll be able to find one of those at a reasonable price and can purchase it so I can show you guys the whole process, because I think that digging through there is really fun and I would like to be able to share that with you. But right now I just can't, so my apologies for that. But here are some still pictures of what I found. Well, as you can see, the iPhone macro lens does a really good job. Sorry about that little bit of shakiness here. Look at those gold bond wires. Like, I don't even need to use a microscope for these. This is this is the square BGA, and this is just one section of that BGA, one side of it. There are 4 sides that connect to the IC chip, and that's just one side of it. So I can see these gold bond wires with the naked eye, and I gotta say, man, I really wish that every chip I touched looked like these. Check this out. Remember I said that was just one side of it right there? All I did is I took the pen and I just kind of crushed up the carbon, and then I went all the way around the sides. You can see right here is a really good shot of where the gold bond wires come in from the bottom of the BGA chip from the actual ball grid array to a really tight compressed knot of those little gold dots that you see. Those are what actually connects to the IC chip die itself. You can see how long these gold bond wires are. I think this is why folks really want you to, when you're looking at doing scrap and gold recovery, this is why you really want to go for the telecommunications. This is what makes things high grade. When you tear them apart and look on the inside, look as I back off of that, look at all the gold you can still see. This is going to be really nice and really fun. I wish I had 1,000 of these switches. I'd be tearing them all apart and getting all the gold out of them. All right, so what's next? Which one of these are we going to do? After the other chip, all of these are going to be lackluster by comparison, I am sure. But one of the things I have started to think about myself is, I want to go ahead and get to the good stuff first. That's what keeps me excited about the hobby. I have several hundred BGA chips that I need to process, and I've just been storing them up because I know it's going to be a lot of gold. I'm pretty excited about it. And I've just been taking care of the lower producing things first, but I really want to focus on those BGAs and go ahead and get at that gold. It really excites me about the hobby. So, okay, anyway, let's go ahead and do the thick flat pack next. Again, same process. I'm just going to crush, roll around, try to powderize as much of that carbon as I possibly can. And let's see if I can, I'll dig around with the microscope. Let's see if I can get away with using the iPhone macro lens for this one as well. Be right back. Okay, let's go ahead and start with this. Yep, we're going to be able to use the iPhone macro lens again. What I want you to pay attention to is look how this looks just from being smashed up. You see lots of wires in there, and some of them are quite reflective. And you might look at that and think, oh, wow, there's a lot of gold in this one too. But if you really take a closer look at it, What you're looking at is they're called lead frame wires. These are the wires that take the surface mount device legs, the connections that the legs make to the circuit board. They take them into the die, where hopefully there's gold bond wires connecting from them to the die. The reason people like BGA chips so much is because they don't contain these wires here. These wires are base metal, and they are, in my experience, they've all been copper. They're all non-magnetic. But what they do is they really muddy up your chemistry when you are doing your metal dissolving. It's really nice when you just process just pure gold already, and all you're doing is trying to dissolve it all so that you can filter it out. This stuff, when you dissolve it, it turns your copper 2 chloride, creates copper 2 chloride, turns your solution darker in color, whether it's green or brown. Really depends on how much copper and how much steel is mixed in your entire mix. But yeah, that looks like gold when you first look at it and you first crush it up, but it's not. So that's why apparently your macro lens on your iPhone or your microscope can show you really easily. I'm not sure what these balls are made out of right here. These look like the balls that are from the legs. Clearly the metal melted under the propane torch, and those legs might be Kovar. They might be tin. I mean, they might be aluminum legs. They might be steel. I'm not quite sure what they're made out of. If anybody knows, please let me know. Do not think they are silver. They don't tarnish at all. So I think that's just base metal. All right, so let me go ahead and dig through this matte top right here, and hopefully what we'll see is there'll be a circuit die underneath there, a silicon die, and there will be gold bond wires. Okay, there are indeed gold bond wires in here, but they are super short and very small by comparison. We knew that BGA was going to be the creme de la creme, as they say. If you look right here where I'm sliding my pen, you can see these little gold filaments right here. These are gold bond wires. So this chip is nowhere near as good as the BGAs. That's why the BGAs are really coveted for their gold content. But hey, these are pure gold bond wires as well. And when you crush all these up and you re-incinerate them to get rid of all the rest of the carbon, it's not very difficult to separate, gravity separate these gold bond wires from these legs. Like I said, I don't know if these legs are Kovar or if they are these lead frame wires. I don't know if they're Kovar or if they're copper or what they are, but they are, by size, yes, they are heavier, but by individual piece, pound for pound, this gold is a lot heavier than it is. So that gold's going to settle to the bottom of your beaker or the bottom of your bucket, so long as you have crushed this and then re-incinerated it once it's been crushed. So you really get rid of all that carbon, and you can then separate 100% of the gold bond wires from the carbon so it won't float. It will definitely sink to the bottom. I have a lot of videos showing that process. Okay, so full disclosure, I couldn't figure it out. I don't know which one of these contains the gold bond wires. The reason I don't know is because if you look here, you can see the row of gold-colored dots in the center of the die. I think that's where the gold bond wires connect. If that's the case, and the ball grid array is on this side, so if that's the case, if that's true, if that's where all the gold bond wires connect to the circuit die, then this whole section up here that I'm about to bust up should have no gold bond wires in it. All the gold bond wires should be in that little black casing right there. We'll see. I don't think I burned that very well, so it might be a little difficult to crush, but we'll check that out in a second. All right, let's take a closer look at this. I have crushed up these two sides of the BGA chip, and we'll go ahead and focus on the less interesting one now. Yeah, that whole thing there is just case. There's no gold bond wires in there. There is the IC chip die, but that's it. Coming over here, let's take a look at that. Hopefully that's in focus. The gold bond wires and these gold pads are all in the BGA chip on the bottom side in this. So I'm going to go ahead and dig into this further just to verify. But if you have a whole bunch of these and you can somehow separate those bottoms from the tops, you'll get a whole lot cleaner process. All I did was I took my pen and I broke the that black bar open, and you can see I'm going to go break it open some more in just a second. All right, so I've crushed these up a bit more, and looking even closer at this one, you can see on the IC die, you can see that there are absolutely little gold pads on there. If you want to get all your gold, you're going to need to process those gold pads also. Over here, there are gold connector sites. I guess there are probably wire traces that take these gold connector site connections all to the individual balls on the ball grid array. You can see the trace right there in the lower right hand corner. You see it looks like a little outline there. That looks like just really paper thin, probably copper wire traces. But yeah, as you can see here in all the clumps of carbon, there are very short gold bond wires. So somehow they've managed to take all the gold bond wires required in the other BGA styles, cram them into these very short runs here. I've been told that there are more gold bond wires in these than in other BGA chips. I find that difficult to believe, just based on this. I mean, and if you say it's based on age or whatnot, you know, the age of this device, the age of these chips is all the same, right? So they came from the exact same Cisco switch, and maybe if you have by weight, if you have a ton more of these than you would the larger BGAs, I can totally understand how the math might work out there. But I'm really having a difficult time getting behind the fact that these small little BGAs on a per item basis have more gold in them than the larger BGAs. That doesn't even make sense. So that can't really be what I had heard. It has to be by weight. And even with that, maybe there's just so many more of these by weight that they might have more gold in them than the larger BGAs by weight. That might be the case. If you know one way or the other for sure, by all means, please share with the community. Okay, I'm done with this one, and I'm going to set this aside, and we will go for the last one. Let's go ahead and grab this, put it over here on our last piece of paper, and we will brush it up and roll it around. So what this is this is the dual-sided IC chip. There are only two sides that have connections on them, connecting the die in the middle, so that should be interesting. Let's go ahead and just wipe that off, make sure we get it all. And we'll put this under the microscope, and I'll dig through that and we'll be back. You can definitely see gold bond wires. Here are clumps of them right here. This is a square two-sided IC chip, so I would expect the gold bond wires coming off of this side or this side. I can't really tell everywhere they are, but there's gold bond wires in here. There's gold bond wires throughout here on these two sides for sure. And that makes sense since it's a two-sided IC chip. But what is interesting about this one too is look at this down here. It looks like right through here might be silver plating maybe on the Kovar or the lead frame wires. I'm not sure what they're made out of, but it might also be distortion from the heat from burning these. But it looks like maybe there's some silver plating to really aid conductivity on these. I did not see that in the other IC chips. like the specifically the quad-sided thick flat pack. I might go back and take a look at that, but for sure it looks like some silver coating is on these. But right there in the center of the screen, you see the really nice array of gold bond wires. All right, that's it for breaking down and crushing these. What I'll do now is I'll take all these. What I'll do now is I'll take all my samples right here, and I will dump them in into a little pill bottle for future breakdown of IC chips, and this stuff will not be wasted and not be lost. Okay, folks. Okay, that's it for this section. All right, I'll try to put some pictures that I just took from the microscope in here as well, but maybe you can see it from the macro on the iPhone also. Holy cow, look at all the gold pads on these little LEDs. There's definitely 2 gold bond wires in each one of these, but the LED pads have their gold pads as well. I couldn't turn all these over. That was just too much of a pain. Well, let me try to do that. All right, so I will layer in a picture that I took from the microscope. Check out this micro view of all of the gold pads on these LEDs. You know, I was kind of sloppy when I took the LEDs off of the board, and I didn't get all of them because I really didn't think I was going to really appreciate them that much. I knew there was going to be a gold bond wire or 2 in there. But now that I see this, I'm definitely going to go ahead and snake those, because the way that you recover all this gold is the exact same way you recover the gold from the IC chips. You just burn it, and then you recover the metal from the ashes. It's super easy. So I'm going to start pulling these off also, and I'll keep these in a separate LED container just so I can keep that stuff separate until I process it. So one quick thing I want to show you also is what I do with, I try to reuse everything. If something has a specific use for it, a use that has expired, then I try to figure out, a way not to make it trash, not to make it recyclables. It's great to recycle, it really is, but if I can also just use something again, then I'd like to do that. So unfortunately, I have some medical issues, so I tend to have a lot of these pill bottles. So what I'll do is I will mark this individual pill bottle with what exactly this is. So this is a BGA from a Cisco switch, 2900 series switch. And there's gold bond wires in here. I will write that in Sharpie on this pill bottle. You may have paid attention to the gold rimmed oscillators that I showed you earlier in the video. Had one of these pill bottles in it. They're super easy to store. They screw on lids. The lid screws on tight. They're easy to write on, easy to keep track of. This is a messy hobby if you're not organized. So what I'll do is I will put this chip and this crushed up chip and maybe even that bottom BGA in this pill bottle and just store it as a separate, unique item, because who knows, I may run across 15 more of these switches, and I may want to calculate just the amount of gold in each one of these BGAs. And if I have all of that very unique material collected in one of these, then I can safely say, if I collect, from 15 switches, if I collect 30 of these, burn them, crush them, recover the gold from them, and then divide the total amount of gold I get by weight by 30, then I'll know exactly how much gold is in each one of these little IC chips, one of these BGA chips, and that might be of interest to you guys. So I want to be able to do that for you one day. So I keep these. If you have little containers, maybe you have a better way to do that. Great. I would advise reuse in all cases. So, okay, I'm going to clean this stuff up and we'll be back with the next segment. And I wanted to show you those LEDs. You know, if I zoom in on all these, they all look the same. They've all got the gold pads on them. So there's some LEDs that I left on the board over here. This right here is where I scraped the LEDs off the first time. I left a couple here. I left one there. There's more. There's more. There's more over here. There's some more there. And then over here, there's 4 more LEDs. I don't know. Maybe because I'm a small refiner, I'm going to get all that. So there you go. Thought you guys might want to see that as well. Okay, also, just because I like doing this every now and then, I am going to see how many of these I actually have. So these are the gold-rimmed oscillators. I'm just curious. Let's dump these out and see how many grams that comes out to. Oh my gosh. All right, 111 grams of gold-rimmed oscillators. Somebody tell me what the recovery rate on these gold-rimmed oscillators is. Like I said earlier, I understand from what I've been told that the recovery rate on these is something similar to the Pentium Pros. I don't know that for a fact. So if you do know, let me know. But here's a little extra, something for you. These are just my hoard of gold-rimmed oscillators. We're back inside now, and we're going to take a look at the rest of this board to see what else is good on it. We've talked about these MLCCs. Let's go ahead and pop a couple of these off. And so there they are. We'll get our little magnet here, and we'll test these for magnetism. I like to use my needle nose pliers here just because frankly, just because it shows better on here. But they cling on. These cling on pretty instantly. They are really magnetic. So I don't think those are the ones that we're going to want to try to keep. What else is on this board on this side? So we have uplink connections, and we have all of these ports. I'm going to try to my auxiliary light died there, so I just need to swap out the battery. So anyway, like I was saying, we have uplink ports here on this side of the switch motherboard, and we've also got all of these individual switch ports. I don't know if you can see this or not, but the switch ports, the pins, they're a very dull color. They're very dull gold, maybe goldish silver color. There's not much gold on those pins. So I don't even bother pulling the pins off of these individual switch ports. However, the uplink ports, if you can see that inside there, they look really good for gold. So I'll pull these off for gold pins. There's another set back here. You can see the difference. There's 2 really well gold plated, and then the rest of the pins are not very well gold plated. I'm not sure why that is the way that is, but I hope you can see that. That's just a difference as to why I pull off the uplink ports and not all the individual switch ports. So let's go ahead and grab those uplink ports. Just grab a pair of pliers, and I'll break them off like this. And you can see here in the light just how nice those look. And then I'll take my pliers I'll take my pliers and I'll just break these off. I understand there's a good chance that these are also plated with some sort of anti-RF material, so there might be platinum on there as well. So I just grabbed the whole thing. I'm gonna put these either in AP solution or use reverse electroplating. But there you go. So that's really easy to take those off. I'll go ahead and do this one too. All you do is crack it back and then twist it off. And what's left inside here comes out really easy. And you can see how nicely gold plated that is. I hope you can see that anyway. When it comes to pins, I really try to go for quality over quantity. I don't want to be spending a whole lot of acids dissolving really low grade materials. Most pins are low grade anyway, I guess, unless they're like military spec or telecom spec. So we really want to try to get these off of the telecom boards if we can, but it's good to take a quick look at it and see whether or not they're worth going after. Let me go ahead and grab this one over here as well. So we see here that it looks like all the ones that were not very well gold plated stayed in place, and there were two that were well gold plated, and they came out the back side of this. And look at that. Yep, these are the ones that have nice gold plating. So there were only two. We'll take those. All right. What else is there? It doesn't look like there's anything else on the front of this board. I've taken all those LEDs here that I said I wanted to grab. I took those off. And, oh, I wanted to show you also. One of these switches fell off, right? These are Bell switches. These are Dallas or Delta switches. But they all look just like this on the inside. I'll hold this up so you can see that in the light. They are really caked with some sort of resin or something, and there's a lot of ferrous material in there and not much copper. So I don't spend the time going for that. Like I had said earlier, I really think this is something that's best suited for the larger e-waste recyclers. Let's flip this over. Oh boy, look at that. Here we have all these MLCCs. I can't help myself, especially with telecommunications equipment. Every time I see MLCCs, I want to test them. I just want to see how magnetic they are. If they're non-magnetic or slightly magnetic, I'm going to keep those because I think they may have precious metals inside them. And while I have the material and I'm going, the source material, and I'm going through it, I want to go ahead and take care of it and grab those and claim these while I have it with me, so I don't have to go back and get it later. I don't want to store it. So let me go ahead and pop one of these off. So there you go. That one's loose. Let's go ahead and grab our magnet again. Woohoo! If I touch it, it'll pick it up. If I just knock it off, look at that. I don't know if you can see that or not, but it's just dangling on there. Let me get it nice and square. Yeah. Okay, well, that's good. I like the way that's behaving. Let's compare that to these other ones that I took off earlier, these other two. You can hear it, maybe you can hear them clank on there, and they will not come off. But this one falls off easily. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and take all of these off as well. What I'll do to take those off is I'll just take my 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 chisel, I'm going to put some gloves on because I don't want to mess up and accidentally hurt myself. But I'll take my chisel and I'm going to scrape across. I'll just scrape right across here. Like I said earlier, these are multi-layer ceramic capacitors. This outside covering is a ceramic covering, and I don't really care if the cover crumbles a little bit. What I really care about is getting the metals on the inside. So there's many layers of metals in there. And as long as I get the majority of the MLCC, I will have done a good job reclaiming the majority of the metal. So let's go ahead and do that now. All right, you see all those MLCCs are off the board now. All right, and there's my pile of MLCCs. I add the one that I did earlier to it. So you see how easy that was to take off. I mean, they're not hard to get off. And I think it's probably going to be worth it. So, since it's so easy, might as well go ahead and snag them. All right. I'm just going to put these into I have a separate pill bottle for all of my non-magnetic or slightly magnetic MLCCs. But looking over the rest of this board, I mean, that's it, folks. That's when you're doing micro scrapping and you're a small shop like me, this is probably as much as you want to take your time to take things off the boards. If you want to go after these pins, there is gold there. By all means, do that. I have 2 chips up here in the upper right-hand corner. I can tell these chips, they don't look quite like BGAs, and they don't quite look like surface mount devices either. It looks like there are lead connections on the board, but I don't see any legs. And when I try to get them off using a chisel and a hammer, right, they don't come off. The reason they don't come off is because there's actually, underneath these, there's a matrix of solder connections, and they're really thick, and they're fairly sizable for the size pins or for the size chips that these are. And thanks to one of my subscribers recommending that I test this kind of chip, I am very confident that these have no gold in them. Every one of these that I've taken off that is this style of connector, every one of these has aluminum or maybe tin to copper bond wires on them. So I'm not going to muddy my solutions up with those, and I'm not going to take those off. If they are gold, I mean, it's not that much of a loss. It's just a few chips. But I don't think they are, so I'm not going to worry with those. All right. And like I said, that's it. So thank you for watching. I really appreciate your time and your thoughts. Please remember to like, subscribe, and comment. Let's have a little chat about some of this. If you have any questions, I am sure that your questions are also questions for someone else in the community. And if we can chat about it and get some answers, get some research, get some ideas for future videos, I think it'll really help the community out. So I thank you for your time, and I hope you have a great day.